got a chance to see Bonhoeffer by Angel Studios. Let's talk about it right now. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thank you so much for spending time with me as we rant about movies, comic books, and television shows, as well as the occasional board game. I am your host, Frank Zank. I'm an award-winning screenwriter, novelist, and comic book writer. And yeah, we're talking about comics. We got Lords of LA in. In fact, I have two more covers that I don't have on me right now. Nope, I must have put them away. But two more covers just came in. We had like a samurai cover, and we have a Helene cover where she's in like sexy leather. But it's my vampire mob set in 1950s Hollywood. So it's got some great artwork in it. It's about a lounge singer that turns into a vampire after being like in a love triangle with the other mob bosses. And after 60 years, she returns to get her revenge on them. It's good stuff. So that's issue 2. And here is issue 1. If you'd like a copy, I do sign them. Just let me know in the comment section below. And then on top of that, if you are a fan of Timothy Zahn, the creator of the Thrawn character, as well as a bunch of others. And Kevin J. Anderson is also involved. He did Dune. He did a bunch of books on Dune. But anyway, we're doing a Green Hornet anthology series with some amazing writers. So you might want to check that out. We're going to be launching that on Kickstarter. You can just go to the description below. You'll see the link to Kickstarter. You'll see the full list of all the amazing talent that we have attached, including Matt Wagner, who's done covers and stuff for Batman, as well as Grendel. Anyway, we got just a ton of people. It's just amazing. Anyway, we'll be launching that beginning of the year, so check it out in the link in the description below. All right, so let's talk about the new Angel Studio. It's amazing that Angel just keeps pumping out these films, and on a very low budget. In fact, I'd like to see if I could find the budget on this one. So from what I can read, the budget was about $25 million, which is extremely small for a period piece like this. And they spared really no expense when it came to the locations and the costumes, the hair, some of the makeup, because they did age people. So I'll have to check if that number's actually right. At $25 million. It was written, produced, directed. You know how it goes. How I feel about multi-hyphenate people in this industry. But he did just about everything on it. It was basically his movie all the way through. And we're going to talk about the good and the bad of that. But he is the writer of Sully. He also did Elf. I think he produced Elf and Perfect Stranger. And there's a movie called Resistance that I'd like to check out with Julia Ormond all the way from 2003 that he wrote. So he's not adverse or inexperienced in writing World War II. And anybody who knows me, I really love World War II stories. Of heroism. I watch anything I can get my hands on, so I'll definitely check that one out. As you know, I wrote a book called Escape from Berlin, the Diane Jacobs story, which is a true story about, it's not really a Holocaust survivor because she didn't actually go to the camps, but she is a survivor of World War II, and she was obviously in Berlin. But if you want to check that out, it is on Amazon, and if you order it, I do sign it. So I'll put a link to that below as well. But anyway, so this I can't say the directing is bad. The acting is extremely good. So let's talk about the actors first. Let's talk about the good. So as I said, the good is they really enacted the time period with the costumes. The locations are out of this world amazing. They did a really great job. Of course, they kept the budget down by not really the only time you do anything with bombs or guns or anything to that effect is really off camera, just sound effects. Even the point at the end, which you'll know what I'm talking about, is they just cut to black at the end. So they don't even go into any kind of stunts for the most part outside of running. So Jonas Dassler plays Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Again, this is a true story. Jonas Dassler is Dietrich Bonhoeffer. And the story of Bonhoeffer is that he was a pastor in Germany at the time of Hitler's uprising. And Hitler he didn't like the fact that the church was over him, right? That there was theology made him look like he wasn't the best thing in the world. So he started changing the religion to the point where he even added 2 commandments that he was a part of. And obviously when people started speaking out about this, he also took off the cross and put the swastika in its place and things to that effect. So he started altering the religion, and some of the pastors started speaking out about the fact that this was wrong. And of course, they became resistance fighters for the most part, even though they weren't fighting. They were fighting with their mouths, basically, with their words. So that's what the whole storyline, it's basically a resistance movie with the fact that it's based on, which is why it's Angel, based on theological faith of the Christian or Catholic religion. All right, so he's in it, and then David Johnson is in it because he ends up going to Harlem and hanging out with all these people of color, and because he wants to learn other aspects of religion to make him a better pastor. So he ends up hanging out in Harlem and going to black churches and things to that effect, and he befriends this one guy named Frank Fisher, and that is played by David Johnson. And if you don't know who that is, I didn't know who that is because I was sitting there throughout the entire movie going, I know that guy, where do I know him? I know he's a good actor, where do I know him from? And it never came to me through the whole movie. It was like scratching me in the back of my head, and it was because he was just in Romulus. He played the android in Romulus. So if you end up in the same position I am, like, where is that guy from? And one of the other big talents here, not name but talent, is Flula Borg. And if you have never heard of Flula Borg, you've seen him for sure. If you watch The Rookie, he plays Skip Tracer Randy. He is that's why it was so interesting to see him play this serious role, because everything else he's done in the past has all been comedic roles. He was also in Pitch Perfect 2. He was just in that spy thing. So he was just in that. The newest one where they go to Italy, he was the villain in that. So he's a really, really good actor, though the spy thing, that was a bad movie to begin with. But Skip Tracer Randy is a great character if you've never seen The Rookie. But anyway, he's a great actor, and it was good to see him do something a little bit different. And then they made the mother age, because it takes place over, pretty much a decade to 12 years. He doesn't really age, but his parents do for sure. But so they did a great job with some of the makeup on that, and the thinning of the hair and the graying, and really, really good stuff. All of these elements in play. The guy who plays Churchill, I thought did a decent job. He's only in one scene. The guy who I wasn't really happy with the guy who played Hitler. Again, one scene. But yeah, so even all the vehicles that they had laid out, they had trucks, they had planes. The planes never flew; they were all on the ground. But still, they had to put the swastikas on them, and they had to be period. So really, really good stuff across the board. They really spared no expense as far as that's concerned. My problem is that because of the time period that we're in now, and it was an Angel Studios production. Some of the stuff is a little bit too heavy-handed. I really don't need anything really heavy-handed nowadays. It should be as subtle as possible because of the fact that we've seen so many things heavy-handed where we literally have handprints on our face being slapped around so much about, all of the, I don't want to say woke stuff. It's more the evangelistic type of things that shows that there's racism in the world and hatred and blah, blah, blah. And we're in the worst time in all of the world. It's worse than, anything prior to the Civil War. We are just the worst people in the world. We should all just commit genetic suicide and just leave everything. White people just need to go. With that, we did get some of that. I don't think it ruined the movie, but I think he could have backed off a little bit. So, especially now also, it's not even just on the people of color side. It was also the anti-Semitic side. So, and of course, we had to have, stuff on the back of that. So let's go through the stuff that I thought was a little heavy-handed. So, and I know where they were going with it because there was one good line in there that had both sides, which I appreciate. So we got to see, it's because it took place in the 30s. So there was no civil rights movement at that time. So, and it took place in New York. So in New York, just like in San Francisco, where we had the Chinese and the Irish fighting one another continuously, in New York, a lot of people migrated to New York after the Civil War, emancipation, or during that time, they fled north, right? So a lot of people ended up in New York and the surrounding areas. And of course, there were some people that were racist at the time and did not, there was a division of, places you could go or places you couldn't. And when you went places that you really shouldn't have gone at that time, it turned into violence. What was interesting, though, is that the violence was aimed at Bonhoeffer, who was, he was oblivious to this because he just come from Germany and is just, experiencing the area. The pastor says to him, the pastor in Harlem, says to Bonhoeffer, he says that a hatred comes in different colors. And I really appreciated that, where we weren't just going on one side. But then, of course, at the end, this has been the highest anti-Semitic thing forever. So this was his agenda from the beginning, was to talk about anti-Semitic things. And really, all that anti-Semitism is coming from the Palestine supporters, right? So I don't know. I don't know what he was trying to really get through to people. Because yes, there's that battle going on with people that are pro-Palestine to pro-Israel, and hopefully now we'll be able to, clean that war up, and we won't have to worry about it anymore. But yeah, so I think that's what he was jumping at. But again, we didn't really, we live in this time. So what's going to happen at the end of this movie when he brings that up, it's going to date a movie that is evergreen because it takes place during World War II, but he just dated the movie just by putting this text at the end, which hopefully they'll, within 10 years they'll cut it out or whatever when all of the stuff is, just doesn't exist anymore. Or is definitely calmed down. Maybe not doesn't exist, but calmed down. So overall, I like the movie, but like other biopics, it gets slow at times, especially with something that doesn't have any action to it at all. It's all dialogue for the most part. So it does, slow down quite a bit at times. I thought that it was just a little bit long, but I did learn a lot. Of course, I knew about Kristallnacht because I wrote that in my book, and that is the Night of Broken Glass, which they didn't show. But I want to, obviously, I need to show that, and if I ever make a movie out of my book, that would be in there. and that's where all of the Jewish businesses and everything else were destroyed by the Nazis / Third Reich, where they started rounding them up and things like that, or made sure that they did not have the financial backing of their own businesses. So that's what Kristallnacht is. And we don't get to see too much in like the concentration camp. It's not really about that. There is some footage, but I think it's more historical footage that they show. And I also did not know that there was another assassination attempt on Hitler other than Valkyrie. And it was obviously failed, just like Valkyrie did, because Hitler ends up taking his own life after Germany was invaded by the Allies. And, of course, I won't tell you what happens with Bonhoeffer unless you want to look it up. But yeah, it goes all the way from the 30s. Actually, it shows him as a child, which we really didn't need, except that we see that his brother ended up fighting in World War I, and so he didn't live from that. So we get to see how he's so averse to war because his own brother was killed during war. So there is that, and so I understand what they were trying to do. So we went from seeing that as a child. I think the beginning was too long for what it was. We had this big, long thing about strawberries and him running and not getting caught. I don't think we really needed all that, although we got to see the family. But again, it was too long. There was enough information there. We didn't really need all that. To the brother, and then him going to Harlem, and then we have the whole thing going back and forth to him having to be on the run, and he goes to London, where they're trying to get Churchill to, and I thought this was very interesting too, they were trying to get Churchill to help them enter the war, or at least do something, give them weapons or whatever for the resistance, and he refused to do it because he was afraid that if they realized that it was a bomb from England, or an English-made bomb, that would then instill the war, which ended up happening anyway. I think that he made a mistake because the war was coming no matter what, and you should have seen that. He could have helped them wipe Hitler out, and then that would never have happened. But instead, he ended up causing his own demise by not helping the resistance. And they weren't really asking for much. They weren't asking for airstrikes or anything like that. They were just asking for bombs, whatever else, so that they can help, so that they can basically send a suicide bomber in to kill him. And they're willing to give their own lives for it, but they just didn't have the ability of doing it. And I found that very, very interesting. But they gave it a shot, and it didn't work out. But I didn't know there was multiple attempts on Hitler. I just thought it was just the one. All right, well, that's it for me. I'm going to give this movie an 8 because it is a little slow at times. I don't think it needed to be as long as it was. Some of the stuff is heavy-handed, but at least it's kind of organic, being that he's a pastor. So there wasn't too much of the religious stuff that isn't organic. So I appreciated that as well. But overall, I thought the directing was good, and I thought that the production quality of it was very good as well. All right, thank you guys very much for watching. Remember to give me a like, give me a thumbs up if you can. And if you can subscribe, please do. Ring that bell, ding, ding. And then on top of that, if you'd like to jump in on Green Hornet, or want to check out the video, whatever else, click in the description link below, and there's also a link there so you can buy me a cup of coffee. And I want to wish you guys and your families all a happy Thanksgiving. All right, bye-bye.